On this week's episode of the Marketing Expedition podcast, we talk with Josh Greene, and he's the CEO of the Mather Group, a digital agency that solves marketing challenges for companies of all sizes. With over 20 years of experience creating and implementing digital strategies, Greene empowers top brands and individuals to shape their online presence to support their bottom line. He has worked with some of the largest Fortune 1000 companies, 5 of the largest nonprofits in the U.S., popular media channels, the 3rd largest network provider in the U.S., 2 of the largest manufacturing companies in the U.S., and many software companies. He is a frequent speaker at conferences and industry events, including the Public Relations Society of America, the AAF, AdTech, SES, PR Summit, and Channel Advisors Catalyst Conference. Before the Mather Group, Greene managed online DRTV programs for industry leaders such as Discovery Channel, Time Warner Cable, 1-800-PACK-RAT, and Zippy Shell. Before we get to the interview, I need to tell you about Strike Tax Advisory. Based in the rising tech mecca of Boise, Idaho, and surrounding states, Strike Tax Advisory is leading the way in an $18 billion plus tax incentive market. Strike's in-house R&D and employee retention tax experts discover unclaimed government credits available to businesses, bringing awareness to clients that their industry innovation efforts could make them eligible to receive credits, and educating those struck hard by COVID that they have the relief available to them. Strike is helping small and large businesses reinvest the assistance back into their businesses to continue growing. Visit peppershock.com/offers to learn more today and click on the link to get the offer from Strike Tax Advisory. And now it's time for the Marketing Essentials moments, the basics that you need to help you build your brand and your bottom line. Today we're going to talk about Facebook pages and Facebook groups. Facebook pages are the official public-facing Facebook entities, the platform for broadcasting point of view and creating an authentic public presence with pictures and posts, places for businesses to update and give practical information. It's visible to anyone, and you can collect audience analytics, add call to actions and helpful apps and services, all of those things that help your business on the public-facing side. Now, a Facebook group can be private or it can be public, right? But it's a place for your customers to bond around how much they love your business and what you serve and what you do, right? It's a place for discussion, learning about the company, rallying around common causes, getting access to exclusive knowledge, and more. It can be public, private, or secret, right? And focus on being able to have loyalty and authenticity of the people that are a part of this specific Facebook group. And the benefits of having a Facebook group for your business is it's a direct line to those customers or those potential prospects or members that have like and causes that you are affiliation with, right, in the industry, or if it's a nonprofit or something of those natures that are really something that they're specifically seeking out and being a part of. And it can really increase organic search and optimization based on the types of clients and customers that you want to attract, right? So when you are thinking about a Facebook group, the public group, right, anyone can search and see your posts. A private group shows up on searches, but only current members can see those posts, or if you're accepting those new members that want to be a part of your group. And a secret group can't be seen unless invited and accepted specifically. And so thinking about how you can use these groups for your business best, you can have customer support, you can do learning and engagement, you can have feedback, you can give insights and inspiration and ideas and information for your audience, right? And you can also create a revenue stream within your Facebook groups, right? When customers are looking for support, you can help them, and you can be the hero by hopping in and addressing the problems or the issues or the questions. And you can announce that you have answers to the questions to the rest of the community in the process. Information for all of your ideal prospects, right? Ideal customers that you want to have as part of your group. If your customers are really nice, they may even help each other solve problems. It's a learning and engagement tool. Facebook has a couple of underused features that can really add some serious value to your group, like the social learning, or maybe some watch party applications. Maybe it's a digital course on how to, give yourself a manicure maybe, or whatever it is that your group is going to be about. And if you're going to host a live stream or interviews within the group, it can really help you engage with those specific specific types of people that are a part of your group, and you can continue to build that group and the content, and it will encourage activity and repeat visits, and you can drive traffic to your website or other efforts that you're doing within your marketing plan and strategy, right? You can also have the feedback forum and use social listening to figure out what really matters to your audience, that you've got really a built-in focus group right here in your group, right? And you want to know maybe how your customers feel about a new or upcoming feature or product or service. Just ask them. And then it's a place to find insights. If you're really wanting to understand the insights from your Facebook page followers, you can go into your group insights, and it'll offer even more data to really kind of geek out on and understand your audience and understand the membership and the growth and the engagement and what kinds of things people are engaging in and why, and the valuable insights to your fans that are a part of your group. And you can also understand when it's a popular time to post, and how many active members there are and the people who are really advocates of your brand. It's also a place for other fans to connect with each other, those members of those groups, right? So sometimes you can bond over new things and new people that you're associating and connecting with. Your brand really can get out there because of the way you're presenting your brand and communicating and engaging, right? And those positive feelings can come from that human interaction, and it can really trickle over into feeling of goodwill and building that education for your brand, right? And building that active community that draws in newcomers. And of course, you can use it as a revenue stream, right? The group is kind of meant to be like a party, not necessarily a sales pitch, but I'm not saying that you should, push promos every day, right? There's an opportunity here to provide value to your loyal followers, and you can make a little extra cash offering some things that you might find valuable to give to your audience, and maybe even offer some free advice or free value that they could then, be a part of and subscribe to, offering access to the group as an incentive to make a purchase, or provide exclusivity to members only deals, or maybe it's the first to know if you're announcing something new and your group is the first to know. This is really a great place to share any of those last minute offers or maybe some flash sales. The key is to making sure that the opportunity is as valuable to your fans as it is to you. And then also some best practices when thinking about your Facebook group, right? Creating a clear code of conduct when people sign up to become a member of the group, posting regular welcome messages, engaging consistently but not overwhelming people, scheduling posts for peak times, keeping the content on your page and group unique to them, keeping out the bots and trolls with those questionnaires when they come to join the group, and of course, editing your membership list as needed. It's some best practices that can help you succeed in your group. And then, of course, give them something to talk about and give them something special. All right, so those hopefully are some things that you can do to help in your marketing efforts. And now it's time to get to the interview with Josh Greene.
Welcome to the Marketing Expedition Podcast, an auditory journey through the latest in marketing, branding, and advertising. Now, here's your Marketing Expedition guide, Ray Allen.
Welcome to the Marketing Expedition Podcast. I'm your host, Ray Allen. I'm the president and CEO of Peppershock Media and the founder of the Marketing Expedition community. And today's guest is Josh Greene, the CEO of Mather Group. Welcome, Josh.
Thanks for having me, Ray.
Josh, let's tell a little bit more about you and your background and kind of what got you from here to there.
Absolutely. Well, it's funny that the Mather Group is mostly an online reputation company these days, because I spent a lot of my career in e-commerce at places like the Discovery Channel store, Time Warner Cable, and 1-800-PAC-RAT. So when we started the company, we certainly thought we would be doing a lot of e-commerce work. And over the last 5 or 6 years, it's definitely changed in response to what the market is looking for.
And so when did you start the Mather Group, or kind of tell me the evolution of the Mather Group?
Yeah, we started it about 6 years ago when there were a number of people I knew who needed help in dealing with their online presence on Google, Wikipedia, other places. So I left Zippy Shell where I was working, launched the Mather Group, and over the last 6 years, we've grown nicely. So it was a bit of a transition from corporate America to consulting, and here we are now, 6 years later.
That's awesome. I often don't even remember that Wikipedia is a source that you can use. Tell us a little bit more about how people and businesses can use Wikipedia as a tool for them.
Yeah, one of the really interesting things about Wikipedia is people tend to view it as an objective third-party source about just about anything. If you think about how you'll do a search, oftentimes you'll look at a company to see what they do and then go to Wikipedia to try and get the version without maybe all the marketing language and see how it really works. What companies often neglect is there's a whole editing community around Wikipedia. So if you don't pay attention to it, the loudest voices can be the ones that are on your page. And oftentimes the loudest voices tend to be people with a very specific point of view, good or bad. So it's worth paying attention to because people treat what's on Wikipedia as bedrock truth, even though that's not necessarily always the case. The other thing that oftentimes companies don't realize is there are a lot of Wikipedia pages devoted to particular categories, for example, business process automation. And if you're in that space, you can contribute some of your thought leadership to that, which has a number of benefits to sort of helping build those resources within Wikipedia. So there's some often overlooked opportunities there for businesses when they're thinking about Wikipedia.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think I'll have to go check that out. Now that you mention it and brought it up, I think it's a wonderful tool to investigate and see how you can use to your advantage. Tell me some more kind of tools or resources or places that you like to, help companies build and grow online.
One of our big focuses is how they're showing up in Google, because that's the gateway for many, many people to sort of see where a company is starting out. Is just you look at their company name, and for a lot of companies that's what SEO or search engine optimization is. When I search on your company, do I get a good feeling, a bad feeling? What are the search results that are coming up? If I'm seeing 7 Better Business Bureau sites on the first page versus a bunch of testimonials, that's going to be a very different experience. A lot of what we do is education with our clients, and there are 3 main tools that we use and recommend for them when they're thinking about that. Those are Moz. Moz.com has a ton of great resources for SEO. They do a lot of thought leadership and research. SEMrush, which we really love for looking at pay-per-click. It'll show you all the ads competitors are running. It'll also show you the value of the organic search traffic that you're getting, which is very helpful from a budget standpoint. And then Google's Search Console can be really helpful just to understand officially from Google what's getting traffic, what's not getting traffic. And also, obviously, if Google has something to tell you, that can be really important too. And I would probably add a 4th one is just making sure that Google My Business is up to date. It just plays such a huge role in driving traffic at the moment that businesses, especially businesses with a physical location, should really take a look at that.
Yeah, it seems like it's a growing tool to use. And Google, since it's the number 1 search engine, in the world, right? You would think that you would want to use Google My Business and all of those tools more. Oftentimes they're overlooked, right?
Yeah, and especially for smaller businesses, there's a lot you can do, both collecting reviews. You can sort of do posts, even if you're not super technically savvy. It's easy enough to do, and many more people oftentimes are going to see that Google My Business information than would actually come to your website, because Google populates it everywhere on phones, on voice search. So it's oftentimes an advantage if you can spend a little time customizing that to reflect the image that you want for your business.
Let's talk a little bit more about voice search, because it is ever growing and evolving and something that people really do need to pay attention to. How have you helped your clients with voice search these days?
What we've seen is it tends to be early days in voice search, in that if people are searching, it tends to be very basic searches at this point. When is a business open, or what is the phone number? Pieces like that. So making sure your information is updated everywhere is really important. So Google My Business, as well as your website, as well as, if you're on DoorDash or you have a Foursquare profile, you want to make sure that all of that information, name, address, and phone is as up to date everywhere you can make it, so that when people are looking for information, then you can be assured that whatever that technology is going to find accurate information, especially if you've changed addresses or anything anytime recently. That can be really important to hunt down. There are tools like Yext and things like that we often see consumers using or companies using. The other thing that tends to be worth knowing is that it's even more of a winner-take-all situation than normal search. On desktop search, you've got maybe 10 results, 15 results on page one, versus if you are doing a voice search, you're only going to get one answer unless you deliberately ask for like the top 3 locksmiths in the area, which we haven't seen very many people do. So what we've advised clients and what they've seen results on is making sure they're owning whatever their niche might be. So you're probably not going to own the keyword locksmith on a desktop search. You're probably not going to own it in voice search, but you might own local locksmith in Vienna, Virginia, or Boise, Idaho. Or if you can even niche down further, if you can do, locksmith for schools in Boise, Idaho, then you've got a really good shot at owning that. There are going to be fewer searches than just locksmith, but that's one that you can win on. If I search on just locksmith in general, I'm probably going to get a bunch of big national sites that I'm not going to be able to outrank. So there's a lot to be said, as I'm sure you tell your clients as well, and making sure you have a very clear identity, because it tends to pay off in search as well.
Right. And, there was a word I haven't heard in a long time when you mentioned Foursquare. I thought, yeah. Foursquare. I was like mayor of something once. But you're kind of referring, it's evolved, right? Tell us what you meant by Foursquare.
Well, yeah. And it's a good point. I really haven't used it in a while either. But anything that's going to have specific business information out there is something you should check and make sure it's updating. The easy way we tell our clients is do a search. If any of the top 20 results for your business are incorrect, see what you can do to fix them. And by the time you get to 15, you're probably at Foursquare and some other tools you haven't used in a little while. Yeah. Unless you're, I'm not even sure. Perhaps it's still going, but not nowhere near the pop culture equivalent. We also see it with Groupons, because people have oftentimes done that and then forgotten about it for years. Maybe it didn't work, but your information is still up there. So everyone remembers to update their website and try and update Google if something's changed. But especially over the last 2 years, there's no telling what else is out there. So sometimes you just need to sort of do a self-audit of how you show up online and see what you need to fix.
Yeah, no, you're right. I mean, when we moved locations, it's been 5 years since, but there's still things that will occasionally pop up that we tried to, update the address and, like, where did that come from? Or, somebody went to our old address because it's on some map somewhere, and we've done all that we thought we could to update everything. And you're right. You have to Google yourself or Google your company name and set that up so that you can make sure that, hey, people go to the right place, right?
Right. And there's oftentimes that the challenge can be it's not quite dead websites, but the level of customer service doesn't exist. Like if that company isn't around as much, right? There's not as many people using MapQuest, and you're gonna someday run into the one person who somehow used MapQuest to find their way to across town to where you used to be. But hopefully, you fix the easy ones and then it eventually makes its way around.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So, okay, I'm interested in you marketing yourself, since we are on a marketing expedition, and since you are a marketing expert online. I'm interested in how you use your own advice and tools to promote the Mather Group.
Yeah, a lot of what we do that helps with our marketing is educational, especially since the two areas we work most frequently in, SEO and Wikipedia, tend to be a little bit technical and wonky, Wikipedia especially, but SEO is oftentimes confusing in terms of how things are showing up the way they are. So we do regular webinars, we do a regular newsletter, we do a regular Ask Me Anything call that allows both people we know and people who may get sort of referred in to learn a little bit about the different areas that we're working in, which A, keeps us visible and hopefully top of mind when they need help, and B, also helps them on some level to be a more educated customer down the road in terms of knowing what kind of things they might need help with. So we do a lot of that. We do a decent amount of promotion of that content on LinkedIn, as well as sort of the usual retargeting that everyone does. But a lot of it is building relationships, because both SEO and Wikipedia tend to be a large part of your online identity. And before you pick a partner for something like that, you want to be pretty comfortable with the organization that you'll be working with.
So if you had an unlimited marketing budget and you could pick anything to help market your own company, what would you spend your money on?
I would probably, which is a great question, I would probably go with physical media actually, and mail out a giant care package of everything you need to know, and probably a big binder full of a lot of the information we've put together, so that people would have it both as a reference and when they needed help could reach out to us.
Nice.
I think would be a starting point. And then obviously you'd have to do something to make people aware of you. So then we could just put a ton of money into putting our content out in LinkedIn in front of the people who need to know about us.
Right. Yeah. And make sure that it gets seen by those that you want to have see it. Excellent. Yeah. I mean, I think that what's old is new, right? I mean, everyone moved to digital and online, but there are still, some tactics you can take to kind of get that traditional method and getting, physical, tangible items in front of people that will lead them to online, right? I mean, you mentioned care package, and immediately I thought of something that was sent to me recently. It was like an old vinyl record, but it was an advertisement for a printing company, right?
Oh,
and they had an actual vinyl record, and it had like this really cool label, but it was an advertisement for them to print, and it was just, and then you could play the record, and I thought, how clever is that, right? What's old is new, and
yeah.
And it was very colorful, and it was just a kind of a throwback, if you will, and it was just an interesting, fun, different way to go about it, and I couldn't bring myself to throw it away. I mean, they spent so much time and energy and money and getting it shipped out to me, and so it was just like, well, now it's still on the shelf, and I look at it and I see it, and it's memorable, right? I was like, wow, they really went to the effort to get in front of me,
Yeah, sometimes there's a lot to be said for going the extra mile, right? That's not a postcard, but at the same time, when you're, in a world where you can be spending, $10 a click, it's not hard to sort of get to a point where you can, find alternate sources. And that's one of the things we're seeing for especially small and medium-sized businesses on places they might advertise like Facebook or Google, is once you've taken down the barriers to entry for just about anyone, it gets considerably more expensive.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's lots of different strategies and tactics we could take, but what's going to be effective and what's going to break through and get to the person and, resonate with them and disrupt their patterns of what they normally do so that they can actually pay attention to you, right? That's like the name of the game. Okay, so let's see. What are some people that have kind of maybe inspired you or motivated you along the way in your entrepreneurial and marketing journey, Josh?
Well, Rand Fishkin, the founder of Moz, I thought it played a big role in terms of just his transparency, both in building the company and some of the experiences in terms of management and dealing with how it ultimately grew and changed, and his ultimate exit. So he's one of them. Ben Horowitz, who wrote the book What You Do Is Who You Are, was a really good one about leadership and making sure that you're sort of consistent with your values as a company. That's been very helpful. And then David Fields wrote a book on consulting companies and sort of how you build your business that I thought was really useful. And I've worked with him over the years on a lot of structural things that have been really helpful.
What are some of the biggest surprises that have happened in your business and why?
I would say, well, first is just as the business grows, you have to be cognizant of how much time you're spending on the important elements of the business, and then a lot of the tangential things. Like you can spend a lot of time working on the perfect task management system or working on getting your accounting set up exactly right, but those are not really the main thing you're in business to be doing. So I would say that's one key thing. And then the second thing is sort of being cognizant of the consultant or agency pendulum, where there's this constant balance of needing to generating work and then doing the work, and that can be tricky, especially when you're starting out. As you grow a little bit, you have some more resources, but especially if you're starting out and are solo, there's sort of that split personality a lot of times, and that's, I think, one that challenges a lot of people who are thinking about going out on their own, because I've had the discussion with quite a few people of, yes, you like doing X, but do you like selling X as the key thing, right? You may be the world's greatest widget maker and you may really like making those widgets, but unless you're starting out as like a captive business, you got to sell the widgets to somebody. And how do you feel about that part of things? And I think that oftentimes is one of the biggest surprises to starting your own business is you don't just get to do the thing you like, you have to find the people to pay you to do it, which is not always people's favorite thing.
Right. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Hey, we all have to sell every day, no matter what role we play, right? Even my bookkeeper and even,
right?
People, even graphic designers who probably would love nothing more than just to design. But you got to sell it. You got to sell your ideas and your concepts and, be able to express what you are wanting other people to buy from you, right? I agree with that.
Absolutely.
What's one thing that you wish you would have known before you started the Mather Group?
One thing that I wish I would have known, I would say I probably let it go too long trying to do everything myself. There are many good resources out there for a variety of things you'll need help with, ranging from accounting to HR to what you would think of as the core business itself. And I think there's a tendency to just wait too long to hire, especially when you're adding the first person and are sort of concerned about paying someone else on a regular basis. So I think bringing in outside help sooner would be one of those things that I probably would have benefited from, but it also seems to be one of those things everybody learns at their own pace, that lesson, and has their own comfort level with that. But that's definitely one when you're starting up to think about.
I can agree with that 100%. Yep, it's kind of like the chicken or the egg. Do I hire so that we can afford more work to do, or do we hire, and I can't afford it right away, but we know we have the work, and it is that kind of constant battle of trying to, figure that out, that pendulum that you mentioned, right? It's finding that and striking that balance. If you could hire again tomorrow, what role would you hire?
If I was just starting out, I would have hired a subject matter expert first, and probably an operations person about 5 people earlier than we actually did. You tend to think of, it's probably the same way that people think about marketing, like, oh, I know marketing, I watch TV, I understand ads, and operations can be a little bit like that as well. So making sure everything gets where it needs to go is often underrated as a skill set.
Yeah, I can agree with that too. Okay, so what advice would you give someone wanting to pursue a career in what you do with SEO and Wikipedia Online, all the things that you do? What would you tell them if they wanted to pursue this career? What would they need to know?
One of the key things is just a curiosity and an interest in learning. There are, a bunch of courses and certifications. Google's made a huge effort to offer a lot of different things. And oftentimes the question is it something you experiment with or are curious about on your own? You can get a certificate in SEO, but do you have a website that you're tinkering around with? It's easy enough to sort of get started and just doing something. And that's one of the things we look for when we're hiring, and just in general, if people are trying something out themselves, that's usually a good sign, because a lot of what you do with clients is sort of try different things out, see what's working, and sort of iterate from there. And you sort of have to have that curiosity. If you are just I want to do these 3 things in this row, that generally isn't how agency life tends to work. There's a lot that sort of goes down different paths as you're going along.
As we turn to the new year coming ahead, for those of you listening, we're recording this in November of 2021. We've kind of gone through pandemic time. We're maybe hopefully approaching a different time in that kind of arena, if you will. What are some marketing trends that you're going to see that you could maybe predict for us, or forecast that you're going to see in the coming year?
I think one of the things that we'll see more of is something that we talked about earlier, where people going a different direction in terms of the marketing. It's been interesting that a lot of the direct-to-consumer companies like Warby Parker are now opening a lot of physical stores, because the economics actually make sense for them to open brick and mortar, because some of the online options have gotten that expensive for them. And I think you'll see more of that, because there's less if you can do those things that aren't quite as scalable, it gives you a little bit of an advantage. If you open a physical store, that's a lot harder to replicate than running $1 million of ads on Google. If you print a vinyl record and send it, that's going to be a lot harder than just spending $500 on clicks online, and it'll stand out. You're not printing out and framing a web ad. Same thing with direct mail. It takes some overhead to get started, a lot less than it used to, but if you do that, it's not as easily copyable. Mm-hmm. And there are a lot of businesses that are in something of a commodity space where online is very challenging. So they need to look at how they can sort of extend that and find some different channels that aren't being as heavily used. Mm-hmm. The one other thing that we've seen is when the big platforms roll out something new, it's often really cost effective because they give it an advantage. Mm-hmm. Like LinkedIn Live came out, Twitter keeps coming out with new things. They tend to be way less expensive because Twitter or Google is concerned about TikTok or something else. So that's one thing we also sort of encourage our clients is sort of, if there's something new on a platform that you're using, you probably want to jump on it early because it's going to be priced in a way where it makes sense for you.
Oh, that's great. Yep, lots of things to consider. And you're right. I mean, when Facebook Live first came out, I was doing them all the time because you actually got people to look at you and there was some traction. And yeah, for sure. Okay, so let's see. Two more questions for you. One, what are some of your favorite accomplishments, without sounding too braggy, but like, what are some things that you're super proud of that you've been able to accomplish?
I would say the thing that's been, really a source of pride is really building a company culture that people are happy to work at, can do good work, and sort of allows for that curiosity to try new things and see what's going to benefit the people and organizations that we're working with. That was a goal of mine when I started the business, to have a very encouraging, supportive environment, and we seem to have done pretty well with that.
And speaking of the company, I was just curious, what's behind the name The Mather Group?
So I had done some freelance work after college, and rather than Josh Greene Productions, we named it after the street we lived on, which was Mather Street. So we were at 5 Mather Street, and the Mather Group seemed good. And if we needed to, we could always say we needed to check with Mr. Mather about any big decisions. And then 20 years later, it came in handy when we were trying to figure out a company name.
Nice. I love it. I love how names get created and it comes to be. So, Josh, if people wanted to get a hold of you or be educated by you in some way, how would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, we're at themathergroupllc.com. We're also findable on all the socials, but we've got a contact form. And if anyone wants to get more information, just drop us a note. We're always happy to chat.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Josh, for your time today and sharing your wisdom and nuggets for everyone to glean from in what you had to offer us today. Thank you.
And Ray, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And for those of you listening, the best thing that you could ever do for any of us is to give us a review, a share, a download, a subscription, all of those things that we all love. And until next time, everyone, enjoy your journey.
Thanks for listening to the Marketing Expedition podcast. Want to continue the journey? Don't miss out on new episodes. Subscribe on iTunes, Spotify, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcasts. Wouldn't it be great if there was one place you can go to get all the latest information and tips about marketing and advertising? The Marketing Expedition community is that place. People like you gather in our online community to build relationships with others and find the latest marketing trends, tactics, tools, and technology. We help you build your brand and your bottom line. Start your adventure today. Visit themarketingexpedition.com to find out more.